All right, Boker Tov. Good morning, good afternoon,
Good evening,
good evening.
no matter where you're at.
Hello, goodbye.
Shalom.
Shalom. Yeah. We're going to start this as probably a series. This is going to be a teaching and a teaching. We've already shared from a perspective what this is when we were shared about Kadam and Adam Kedmon and Damascus, about the responsibility of what we are as a blood vessel. And as Damascus, as a blood vessel, which really means there's a measure within you of mighty that has to bless you. There's a measure of mighty within all of us that's to be drawn out, and it's called the measure of Sak, which is Damascus means the silk work or the threads within you. And so this is the burden of responsibility. What Damascus is not a geographical, but more as an individual responsibility of awareness through situation about ingathering to assembling God. And this is directly connected to what we've already shared about the language of Kedmon, which Kedmon is really a language of in-between, of reciprocity. It's a language of Kuf Dalet Mem. So we're drawing in to draw out to know what is to be the highest, the Kuf Dalet, To be the pinnacle of point, we have to go into introspection to draw in, to draw out, to rise to fall Damascus. So we assemble the intention. And so this is going to be based off of a question that was asked. We had one of our Patreon subscribers asked the question of the word, was it faith?
Aman.
Aman. What's Aman? And I said, I'll go over this, but to do this is service, because this is it's not just a word that I can say it's this or this, it's the revelation of who you are in totality as a sum. So I'm going to intertwine this with Sekhmet, what it is as Yerushalayim, what it is as an intercourse of realizing what is invalidation to validation. These are all connected. What is a foundation? What is founded? Then what comes around to support, so we can rise in and move beyond in rightly defined validation that produces invalidation without staying in that place. So this kind of puts us into, propels us into the awareness of responsibility, accountability, because this is all the court. So this court language we're going to start with today, as I would really want to title this as the Constitution, and it is Sekhmet as a vibration. So let me put Sekhmet on here as a word. So we got now that word morphs a little bit because I believe there's an olive in here, but that's okay. We can use this as a vibration. It's hidden in there as a silent, but there most likely is. But for the ease, I think for people in this stage right now, we'll just write it as this vibration. But it is in there. I can tell you, I feel very much is telling me that it's hidden in there. Is that as ma'at? It's the language of completion, because it has to. Well, actually, let's just write it so people can get familiar with it, because it is a truth, and I don't want to diminish the truth. I want to speak it as a frequency of responsibility myself, because it's already saying ma'at, and that would be a strong dagesh because there's another olive hidden there. So there's actually 3 olives in this word, and which is very powerful. Which is the Trinity. This is a Trinity. Okay, so I know you know that. That right there as Sekhmet would live up here. This is a title, and so this little drawing I have right here is really the courtroom. Here's your courthouse. We have the defense counsel, we have the prosecution that are separated, but they're seeking to find this, the benchmark. And this right here, I have this word set up here. This is the throne. And I find it interesting that that's Kaf Samek, that's a strong dagesh in there. So there's 2 Sameks in there, and then the olive.
So that would be a throne within the throne.
That's a throne within a throne. It's actually, there's the throne within you that takes you to another dimension. This is the benchmark. So this is the Supreme Court. This is now going to adjudication. And what we're learning is the language of transgression. We're learning how to cross-examine ourselves as a witness into the realization of the intimate chambers, because this would be the judge's chambers. And this would be the power of witnessing what the word is. The olive Taf begets the intimate chambers. And so this is where the judge would come out to take his seat. And then there would be a line right there where you'd be taking the right hand of the absolute to verify your condition.
As a witness.
As a legal crossing to cross the law of the sea. You're moving from a testimony and a witness into the realization of establishing it as the magisterial role.
Right, so that's the witness stand.
That's the witness stand.
That makes sense.
This is the stand.
Right.
This is verifying, are you qualified to be on the right hand of the Father? And if you are, then you're able to take the throne. This word right here, this Kaf Samek olive, it means a sum of circle, but it's really talks about, so the sum of a circle is more of a circuit, which means to go around to become the sum of the whole circuit. So this is the circuit court. And so the seat is based off of your sum of awareness to know how to come around and about yourself, because that's the language of navigation. Come around, come about is the language of the law of the sea. And this is how we cross the distance of the law of the sea. You're now gone from the perspective, you've crossed the bar per se, you've learned how to navigate, or at least you're being tested in your navigational skills. And now you're crossing the law of the sea. You're closing the distance between as being a witness, now you're qualified as the law of the sea. And I want to connect all this. So there will be an A, a B, a C, a D to this, because I'm not going to rush this, because this is so important, because this is a rewriting of the Constitution, realized as one sovereign nation. You, me, and whoever's seeing this that can connect with this. And so there's many vibrations and frequencies in here, and I want to do it as service. So we're going to go slow on this, probably make these an hour and a half, and then we'll build upon them. But this law right here, this is the law of transgression. The word transgression simply means to walk over, across, beyond, to transgress the law. I can collapse it, not as a negative. I can simply, because it's usually, we'll take it in the negative spin, the negative
We
narrative,
always do.
to say we transgress the law. All it means is you haven't crossed over. Transgression, by definition, just means you have to, it actually means trans, to walk, to gress, to move beyond. So you have to know how to transgress this law, to move from where? From here to the beyond. The benchmark of the throne room, you, hippocampus, thalamus, amygdala, the whole throne room, where you've settled all fear and now you're residing as peaceful, because this is the foundation of peace. This is Jerusalem.
Wow.
So when you reside, so there'll be this courtroom will be very busy when we're done, because we're going to assemble the courtroom as a summit. This is the great witness and a testimony of self-governance, a nation, but a nation has to sovereignly stand by witnessing itself to realize what it is as one constituted, as consummation, as one resolved, as one standing.
Yeah, so that would be, this is all the process from what I'm seeing you lay out of self-adjudication.
Self-adjudication through the realization of knowing the defense counsel and then the prosecution counsel, and we're going to render those downward to right definition, and then we're going to connect this, because this Jerusalem, Sekemet.
So for people that don't know what Laorshalem is or Yerushalayim, there are two different forms of the English translated word Jerusalem.
Right.
Just
And by definition, it means the foundation of peace. So we have to draw this in a way, and so I'm going to come around first of all with why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing this first is I'm giving my position on deposition. Before I can step into the courtroom, before there is actually a court case set, we would always be well advised to sit before the council of wisdom to what we're doing. I've written my deposition. In the realization of the deposition, it tells me I'm in a deep position. And when I reform myself and aware of what the court of law is saying, I now reposition. Where's the position? On the throne. Right? I am now Jerusalem as a measure of resolve, and I am the sum of my circle. I am now circumnavigated. I am now the law of the sea. So I'm being a witness to my own testimony, and I've moved beyond the bar. I'm no longer in the place of voyeurism to watch this Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, right? Because that's actually a frequency. I've joked around. The spirit told me, it said Amber Heard, which is the language of light or electricity or lightning, heard. And so now I could take this in the spiritual. Amber Heard Johnny's deposition. Johnny means grace, and Depp actually is a French word, and it means, it morphs a little bit. It means it goes into the language of depopi or depopa, and it means to become a priest, and it's where we get the word the Pope from. So Johnny Depp is the graciousness of the priest. So Amber Heard, the grace sounding of the priest or the Pope, one who talks like God. That whole orchestration of nonsense was a distraction from the origin of intent.
of what it was trying to project forward.
Right. And because Hashmal is where we get the word amber, and it means, and it's where we get the word electricity from. It's lightning. And so the lightning is listening to us right now, because it is this right here. It's that language of light that we're trying to calibrate to. And it's listening to those that are calling forth the order of sound law by crossing over into the law of the sea. They have now become the beyond. And so it's listening for the deposition of grace, because this is all grace's race.
So in other words, waiting to hear grace from here so it can answer as grace.
I call out to grace.
Grace.
Yes, your honor. Yes, your grace.
and grace would call back. You resonate as a frequency
Of
of
grace.
of what we call not reflection, but reflection. So now you are actually vibrating as this and this, because you cannot move away from validation and invalidation. They share the same space because this begets that. This is the conception. This is the begetting.
So that grace is that reflection coming back to you, showing that you match its frequency.
To hold you in center.
Yes.
It pushes you. It's a push me, pull me. It's going like I echo it from the position of validation. I call to it, and then by its response, it automatically puts me into right center. I should be this. I'm this, but I'm actually centered right here as what a second is as a vibration. And so, but this is going to morph. We're going to see again. We're going to see God. We're going to see the translation of Jerusalem. We're going to see Israel in this. We are going to see many words that are going to vibrate to this, because I cannot just put Sekhmet up there when we had the expression come to us at the beginning of the month and the start of that new moon cycle and how it presented itself to us. I wouldn't feel right with myself of doing a service just to put Sekhmet. And then I go into the expression of the ancient Egypt to say, Sekhmet is this. She is a lion. She's ferocious, but then she's peaceful. She is a warrior, but she's kind.
And she's healing and pestilent.
And pestilent.
Right.
So the only way I can do it as service to answer this question of what is truth, Amun Ra, because it's in here too. We'll see Amun Ra in here. And then what is this as a word? What is the justification that gives this the authority and the title to move into this position of absolute? Because it is. It's absolute. And so we have to be able to break this down to qualify this as a resolve of our own constitution. If we cannot do that, then we cannot assemble it as consummated as one standing.
Right.
That's the constitution. So I'm giving a deposition into position. And I'm no longer in this place of voyeurism. I've moved beyond the stands where people would just be watching this. I've crossed my own bar, and now I've entered my own position, and now I'm speaking from the best of my ability from my neutral stance to project back in to watch this court of law unfold. I'm now in the language of transaction between the word and the chamber, the intimate chamber of my heart. From the gifting and the generosity of my witnessed word, I now stand as a summation of my circle. I am enthroned to take the position of Sekhmet. You are as well. If you can see the vibration when it's offering, I can acclimate to its intention and move into the lofty of lofties.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So why deposition? So let's start with deposition by right definition, because most of us transact it as a language of law. And again, we are moving into the transgression. We are doing this. We are closing this. There's the transgression. The distance from the bench to where we voice our concerns. This is the place of claim. This is the claimant. I have an issue. What is your issue? What are you claiming? What do you know about yourself that you're here? State your claim. My claim is that's my seat. Very well. The seat can be yours. Can you proceed with your case? Can you verify and justify by sound reason of your own constitution that justifies this seat? So this is the language of transgression. We are learning to transgress this distance to that distance, and they collapse on themselves in one resolved center. Again, we are simply moving in to the beyond place of becoming the journey into a cross, transgression.
So you just opened a case.
I've just opened a case. I've opened, as what the Spirit has already told me, rewrite the Constitution for one nation of one standing. You cannot step into, again, if you don't know how to sovereignly sentence over yourself, then most likely there's the sovereign sentencing over you. You'll always be in the place of deposition, not realize there's a position to beget. You haven't conceived yet. So by sovereign sentencing, I now break out from under a lesser constitution, and I redefine all the words of what constitution is to become one standing. And why am I saying this as one standing? Because this is very important, because I'm going to define constitution and what is in the heart of Sekhmet.
Mhm.
because this is the claim. I claim secondment as a title. I collect it as a deed, as a responsibility of awareness by self-sentencing. I recognize it as a testimony. Therefore, I claim it as a title, as a seat of authority. I am centered as one resolved through the power of the word. I am now one chambered. Okay, that's the Holy of Holies in the innocent expression of what it is, without getting, whoa, you can't touch that. Oh, I just touched it. I touched it in the realization of my own willingness to go into my forensic work of deposition to pull out the position. That's the olive talk. And I know you know that. I'm just, again, you know all of this. I'm speaking it as a witness so you and I can connect with this together. And thank you, people, for listening, because you're actually giving us a platform to voice this as an act of duty and responsibility, fully accounted or accountable as a response. And so now this is being broadcast, and this vibration will now echo in the earth as the great court case.
Exactly.
So we don't need, the Constitution will be done away with, because we're going to be realized we are the Constitution. So I give my position on how I stand. So I'm one fully constituted, is fully assembled. Deposition. Let's define deposition. Let's start right here. Deposition by definition: dethronement of authority, removed from nobility. That is etymology of deposition. So now, we're gonna drop a grenade down the well, and then boom, we're gonna blow water everywhere. But now we have to go gather all the water droplets to assemble the well, because that's what we're doing. We have to know this is what's happened to us, that wellness was put into the ill category by definition. So we assemble well again. So someone dropped a bomb into the well, exploded water droplets everywhere, and the great assembly is actually called the master of the sea, which should be all of men. I'm now the Aleph, the master of the mother. I'm the sacred order of nation. I've gathered all my water droplets. I am the circuit court. I am called the deep well of resolve. I am a master of my own sea. I am the law of the sea.
So the gathering and assembly of making oneself holy.
There's the master of the water. One sacred mother, one nation, by definition. We'll get to that later on. But let's clear the board here really quick. And so we know that we're making a claim, okay? So let's just make this simple so we don't confuse people. We'll come back, we'll put that back up there. But we are talking about secondment as the vibration in the Hebrew Aramaic, and what it is as the responsibility of right throneship. So as deposition is a place of dethronement of authority removed from nobility, it's actually saying you just got beheaded.
Right,
You've just laid down your crown.
right.
By coming into the expression, you are now in the place of going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I have totally laid down full authority to regain.
How interesting that when we enter in, we crown as being bald.
Yes.
Like when we come in, there's no hair,
No,
there's no covering. And we crown without having a crown.
right. That's the begetting. When you conceive this is what's in the earth right now. God's some assembly required. And as soon as you conceive this, and then you steward it as in part of the gestation period to steward its growth as the tent of meeting, you're now indwelling this revelation, and then it will be birthed into the earth through the crowning. And that's even where we, so a lot of things. I mean, that's the part of the Dol Mem, right?
Blood.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, in the blood. So what we're looking for in this dethronement and in the language of removing our own authority as nobility,
Because we're born through blood and water.
we're born through blood and water. Adam.
Yeah.
We're born, that's Damascus. You're born through the mighty deed of Damascus. Damascus is the silk in you. You have to draw it out through the mighty deed of what actually it would be. So because this is the same, this is why I brought the other teaching forward. So now we're into right, but we're gonna do it this way. And that's all of it was given in Micah 6:6, right? So now the mighty deed of this is still blood, it's still Adam. Adam's right there, but now Adam is in the place of compression or sustainability, the kuf, right? So sustain or in the place of above, below, moon, sun, does not matter. It's a line of demarcation that stays fully compressed when it's done. But this is the language of reciprocity. This is the drawing out of Damascus that we have to learn that what the reciprocity is, because this is the mitigation between here and here. Cadmon is more of a job description to say he's your defense counsel and he is the one that is being the prosecutor. He's the one that's going between the high bench and the low bench, and he's being there and he's questioning you in your resolve when you take the stand, because he's the Cadmon, he's the risen one, but it's you. And so you're questioning yourself in your own resolve to say, is it in your blood?
So this is really coming face to face with ourselves.
Because his name means encounter.
Right.
His name means encounter. So he's the one that draws the face to the face in the realization by closing the distance of transgression. And so in this measure of being a witness, this is the language of encounter. Yes, we'll get to this. We'll break this down a little further, but it means the great encounter. I bring the face to the face. I close the language of transgression. I reform it back to the intention. If you mirror its reflection. Because you cannot just assume you say this or to see this when we share this, to say, you mean in zeal and desire? Yes. But there still is a job description to fulfill this level of magisterial role as a mandate, as a level of magic, of magi, magisterial. There still is a reason that this got to this place to establish this ancient order, because the same word is ancient. So this is the ancient face to face that we are conceiving to beget, to produce it in the earth right now. It's the deed of title. So beheaded. So automatically, this already tells me that the deposition is looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking for the head.
Exactly. But the only way the head can be established, the government has to come
The
first.
government has to come
It has to
first.
come first.
The government has
The
to know.
government shall be on his shoulders.
Right. The government has to come first because this is how we establish a nation.
And interesting enough to say, it's the government shall be on her shoulders.
Yes. So we're going to get into, so we're going to go into what this nobility is, and I have to break down government. So I'm going to read the Constitution and the definition of Constitution is, and we're going to break down exactly what is the government, because without this, you'll never know. So I need to bring this forward. So we're going to be more or less into definitions today, because this is still truth, Sekhmet, Rashid, Yerushalayim, and many others of the full olive top to the top, right, to the intimate chambers, right, because this is the sanctum where the judge will come out to take his royal seat. And so this is constitution and consummation as wed as one, as fully resolved in one standing. This is individual, one nation, a divine nation. This is divine nation. So I need to connect all
Right.
these words because there's so many titles I could put on here. This is the constitution of divine nation.
Tonight, divine nation as God,
As God, one standing,
right? Indivisible.
indivisible. And we're going to get to that because it's in the Constitution. So I have to break down indivisible,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So we are establishing the Rashid, which is the word for the world would call it Genesis. We need to redefine this because we say Rashid. Well, what does Rashid mean? Rashid means the first.
The beginning,
The beginning.
right?
So the head is looking for the beginning, the
Well,
birthing.
And technically, the head is looking for the body.
So we're going to sit, right, well, yes, it's looking for the body because the head's already waiting because it's already been locked because it stayed in the upper dimension,
Right, seated in
heavenly places.
Right,
So the head is already there. We came in severed, not physically,
But-
spiritually.
yeah,
We came removed from it to ingather Hava, the atmosphere around us, to know this language of the court we've already said this many times, is that there's an atmosphere around you of surrounding that you breathe in, you breathe out. And in the awareness of your deposition, I move into the language of intercourse and I extract out to see, oh, what am I going to do with that shadow? I'm going to transmute it. What? I'm going to transgress it. I'm going to move it to beyond. It's a language of law, and it's showing me incrementally how to become full circle. That's fully aware. In that, I'm an olive as one centered. That's the language of the court, to be centered in the law.
right,
That's your definition, what you shared with the people. That's an olive.
yeah, exactly.
And so in this language, the language to be headed, we're looking for the first, we're looking for the Rashid. And you're gonna see this word of standing, Genesis. And so again, we got to break free of the great because we're going to see this everywhere Genesis, 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 gene. But it's saying Rashit, Rash, or Resh, or Rashit, or Barashit, build this.
And we've already connected that as well, in times past, principalities and powers.
Right. Right. So let me read this, and I know this might get a little bit laborious, but again, this is a frequency. I have to break it down because there's people that are saying, what is truth? It is your truth. There is your truth until you realize as the totality of absolute truth. You can only see what this is through the foundation of peace, Jerusalem, that deposits into this foundation. This is the founder.
So this would be relative truth here. That's absolute.
Absolute truth, relative
Because
truth.
that would be still in duality.
This is doing, that's why it's
Like
separated.
my truth, your truth.
Right.
It's true to you, but it's also true to another, and
This-
it's opposing.
This is the battle. Right?
Yeah,
This is,
exactly.
you said, he said, I didn't say that, we said that. This is the battle. We're looking to take this line of the gate. There's the gate, the bar. Take the bar out to realize you crossed the bar, and these now all collapse into one resolve. So there's the wrestle. This is the battle of the law court. He said, she said. This is the push me, pull me. This is the Lamed seeking a Lamed, but you're not realizing that both of you, and they want to stand together as one. They're looking for resolve of counsel so you can be wed again. This isn't divorce. This is now the realization. I never wanted to leave you. I love you. I want to stay in the relationship very well because we're going to learn this language. So yeah, very powerful when you see it as an expression. I use this as a metaphor, and this is how I look at all my expressions when I go into the language. I put it into a cork format so I can see the transgression. I see it shows me how to translate. This same word for transgression is the exact same word for translation. It means to take it from one place to another.
Mhm.
That's all it means.
Mhm.
So we collapse it to say, I want to take this to that. How? I had to close this distance by translating all this word. So I'm giving you the power of translation. So dethronement of authority removed from nobility, beheaded. So again, looking for the head. So let's break down nobility. Honor, renown, quality of being, excellent and of rare form. From Old English means high rank, dignity, grace, great deed. From Latin nobilium, high birth, excellent, superiority. That's nobility. Okay. Noble, illustrious, distinguished, of high rank, of birth. Rishit, that's Genesis again. To know, from the pi root, it's GNO, gno, it means to know.
Right, that's the beginning of gnosis.
That's gnosis, right? So noble is from gnosis.
How interesting is that?
Yeah. You have to know this. You have to know how to transgress this, to translate this, to know what Gnostic is to know yourself in a court of law.
And that's divine, intimate knowledge.
Divine intimate knowledge.
I
Yes.
mean, experiential.
Yes, you can't go in to witness someone else. You're witnessing me do it for the sake of our patrons, but I've had to go in and extrapolate my own law by Gnostic knowing the intimate revelation, but I can translate to da'at, right?
Oh, I was gonna say that.
Right.
Da'at, the Hebrew word for gnosis.
Because we would call it, that's why we call it, again, to connect to the people that don't know this teaching. I can already tell this teaching to be many segments. That's why we call it metaology, because metaology by definition is again, so it's mem. I believe it's top all. Yeah. There's meta, and by definition that means native birthright. So metaology, and so it would be meta, and then it would be which this is the word for knowing. There's gnosis, the art,
Right,
knowledge.
so it'd be like the door in time.
The door in time, or the door in time reveals to you the knowing of what is deeply residing in the covenant.
And Da on the outside is a decree.
A decree, a fiery law. Now there could be a sheen in there. This is the fiery decree, right? And so
Well,
metaology,
and I want to change that because it's connected to nobility.
nobility.
Because the decrees come from a royal position.
So we're going to break down the word native knowing, because this we're learning to go back to nature as a divine nation. So this is like again, grenade in the well. The well is already accumulated in its source of stoned in.
Right,
It's been built.
it's been walled in.
But again, unless you
Goes
know
deep.
that, we have to drop the grenade in there to
Right.
blow the water out. Now let's go, because I could go, do I go here to grab that? Do I go, because you
Right.
know how it's like, right? is blowing
very
up,
difficult.
very difficult to gather all the droplets to put them back into the well. The well.
Right.
So, yeah, so this is the language of metallurgy, and it means to know your native knowing is to know the birthright. The birthright as Rashid is the beginning of the crown. You are now the head restored as the birthright. If you know the deed, then you know how to then you have to move into the title.
So having entered into separation, which is death,
Separation,
which is death, this is the death
there's the
position,
death position,
deposition, death position,
dethroned,
right?
beheaded,
So by walking through death, this will lead us to the sacred
the
chamber.
sacred chamber.
And that Ma is 100 to the 10,000-fold measure,
Well, yes,
right? Mem
Yeah,
Aleph
yeah.
is that measurement.
it's the mirror of nation. Actually, those two words right there
So
is
amazing.
mother, it means
Yeah,
nation,
yeah.
and it means source and origin.
Right.
So the origin,
As absolute.
right, and this is, that's the top is the Constitution. So the
Right.
Constitution of the Sacred Mother, as in earth, is already here, the absolute one. You're just gonna have to know what the native nature is to restore the nature of a state of being.
Right.
Kaya.
Well,
So there's metallurgy for people that question what do you call this? Well, this is what we deem this to be, and it's the forensic works of law. That's really what it is. It's the language of law, and we should know this as Dean or Danielle, because the judges are here. They are here.
oh,
But
exactly.
we have to
It's-
prognosticate the law
Right.
to make the standing as available, so people can say, yeah, or
Well, this
oh,
is-
yes.
This is establishing the whites' law or natural law
Mhm.
over the blacks' law
Well, then the black law.
as being supreme, as absolute.
Right. So let's break this down so we can take that out. I don't want to complicate the board, and you tell me when you've had enough, and then we'll stop this with an A teaching, and then we'll move in. This is gonna be lofty. So noble again, no, Gnostis to know. Okay. Distinguish by splendor, magnificence or noble, bearing of birth. We just showed you what the bearing of, so nobility is the
right.
bearing of birth, right? Okay. So now let's move into nobility again. Now we've shared a little bit, so I have to tie these loose ends. Here's a water droplet I want to tie in because this is Cain and Abel. This is still Cain and Abel.
Yeah, because Abel was a vapor.
Abel was a vapor, so I gotta
Right.
go grab the water droplet. I gotta pull it in to make sure, because Cain is part of the stand.
Right.
He knows how to return. So why though? Why am I tying it in right here? Because the language of nobility is what we knew that a vain imagination, when it's fulfilled, it's called generosity. Envy, Cain's by definition is envy and jealousy. But we know that I'm envious for what I'm seeing. I'm jealous for what I'm seeing because I want to become it. But the antonym for envy is generosity. So let's define generosity to tie in Cain.
So this would be down here is envy,
Yes,
vanity.
yes,
That's
generosity.
generosity.
So let's define generosity.
So this is taking, that is giving.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. This is the part of responsibility that we're realized to close this all down, because it's a complete mirror of itself in the realization of what is and what is not,
Mhm.
right? So we're
Right.
closing the distance.
Yep.
So in this vibration of Cain that we know, so, and I don't need to go into that teaching, so this is a new teaching, but we've already shared what Cain was as that vibration. So someone's going to have to go back and look at that. I'm not going to bring Cain into
No.
this on that level of diagnostically breaking down
Already
Cain.
been there, done that.
So we know that the antonym for envious is generosity. So
Right.
generosity, first word in generosity, nobility. Nobility, goodness of race, from Latin, gene, roche, intium. Roche,
Mhm.
gene, from the genus of your being, you are already gracious order. You're already the generous order of restitution. It's already in your blood, Damascus. You just need to draw it up to know that this is generous. This is the generous gift given to you. You're going to have to find generosity, though. So it means nobility, excellence, magnanimity, from generous, of noble birth. So now we go right back from generous back to noble birth. That's metallurgy. Generosity. It's directly connected to the word liberty. It means the first word of liberally or liberty means generosity, from Old French. Liberite means generosity. Liberation, it means a way of thinking or acting befitting a free man. It means frankness, and the language of noble, and from its definition, it means graciousness and free. So now we have.
I love that it's freedom to speak, to be frank. Like there's no fear that's attached to the words that are coming out. As a noble one who gives graciously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because that's where you know that you have to know this language of graciousness that has been given to you as an order and a mandate. And when you reach this place, you now speak your truth.
Exactly.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the sacred oath of return that what you say is true? It's the only way you're going to know.
So help you God.
Because we're going to get into the right hand of Benjamin to produce the left hand of the Father. We got to go there. So in this language of, it says in its definition of generous into liberty or liberality, then it says see liberal. So it's directly connected. So liberal, first word for liberal, generous. Also nobility born, noble, free, from the Latin as selfless, magnanimous, and admirable. Now this is where we get the word admiral from. To be admirable is to know the law of the sea, because you are now the navigator of the sea. That's why you're given the bars and the stripes of the command of the vessel, Damascus, the blood vessel, that is able to cross it admirably. Because why? Because you are the language of the throne that I put up here, and it means you have journeyed around and circumnavigated as the compass. If you are the admiral, then you are the compass. Because that's the only way you can navigate as a helmsman. Is the helmsman we're going to get to. So that word still liberal from liberality is from the word beneficence, benevolence. It's the language of kindness, generosity, good and well. So now we have benevolence in here as a frequency that's connected to all this language. We can connect it. Whew, that stove is getting warm. Okay, let's talk about quickly nation on that, because all this word of liberal, nation, benevolence, and now it goes to nation, and it's a race of people from rank, from the root word gene, to give and beget in birth. That's the root of nation. So all this generous, liberal, kind, well, grace is all from the language is connected to gene, which is where we get the word roche from, which is a word for head. Remember, we came in as a deposition, so we had to find the head through generosity, liberty, benevolence, to find yourself as a sovereign nation standing.
How interesting. All of that is found in the very first word.
Very first word.
Better sheep.
Better sheep.
And having that bet on the front, you've got to build it.
Right.
You have to build it within.
Right. So now if we went to the language, if I wanted to put the language up here, it's simply Het Resh, which is life risen, life or what surrounds you as divine inspiration, as Hava, as an atmosphere, is now giving you the ability to rise as a rose. This is the breakdown of it.
So in the flip side of it, it's one who is separated as poor and destitute. And then it becomes life that has been risen.
Life is risen.
Right? So down here, this would be life that has been separated, poor and destitute.
Absolutely.
The mirror of that, the other side of that would be life risen.
Right. So absolutely. So you know the language well enough that there's a word hidden in this word, but for the sake of the viewers, we know that right there is that right there. People just said, because it's
so that's these are the constituents.
These are the constituents
that make that symbol.
So it's actually saying that
Right.
You just can't see it, but the resh being there, it's shorthand.
Head fire.
Head fire.
Head fire, or tongues of fire upon the head.
Right. You're now surrounded in life, and you're giving
Yes.
the responsibility of headship again. You're now back
Yes.
to the language of the first lane, and now you're head fire.
And now you see within.
And you see with them. So this is chor, and it means a noble. So there's the word for a noble. To be properly white from the cleansing and the shining power of fire.
Yes. Sorry.
So this is
like establishing Hallel.
This is halal. Well, again, you have to translate this to know what halal is.
Right.
So there's Ra. So,
Right.
because we'll be talking about Amun Ra, So because it's right in here, you just know, like when people say, I'm not saying this is Amon Ra's a bad guy, right?
To see fire.
He's not.
No.
He just saw fire in the innocence of what it is. I can assume the position of Amon Ra.
Right, it's all archetypes.
It's all
anyway.
archetypes,
It's
right.
like, it's like all of those things are our maturation
Right.
as we move into those frequencies.
Right. So there's a noble, and it's
Yeah.
simply breaking this down again. Let's take it back to the innocence of its expression. At Resh, right there.
Mhm.
And so now we have the cleansing and the shining power of fire. So this one is fully consumed in the resonance of nobility by knowing what head fire is. You are now, it's upon you. You built the form and now you're infilled as back as why, because you're no longer in the dethronement of deposition. You're now back in the position. The government is established, head is put back on. Now fill them.
And now the crown is set because you're light.
The only way is because the crown has to be set because you've circumnavigated your own court.
So if you have the crown, you took the throne.
You took the throne. That's going from a testimony into the establishment of neutrality to know that you're centered as the absolute one. And now you're centered in yourself as God assembled, birthed in the earth once again as the ancient order of Kadmon, because that's the ancient order of reciprocity that's produced. Kadmon is really only a job description of an ability to assemble through a transaction of court of law. Kadmon to me is more like when I look at it, like, oh, you're giving me the ability to translate your name of antiquity. It's not named that. That's the means and the mode. It's more of a modality that teaches me what the healing is. Right? It's just a modality. It's just the means to approach myself, but it's showing me, you know, I'm a bear. Kadmon is a gatekeeper to the east.
Mhm.
So it's a gate. It's a doorway that is interdimensional that you don't cross unless you're vibrating to the frequency of the gate. Kadmon. Kadmon.
Mhm.
Right? So this word morphs a little bit. There's a vowel place in here too. Now we have the great expanse, right? Connecting these two. And that's where we get the word white stuff and white linen. Exact same spelling is to turn. As no longer return, because you don't need to return. If you're already there, you are called turn. You're just turned. This is the language of
So
Reflection.
if you were to, you could say fully repented.
fully transgressed, fully beyond. Right. Actually, it wouldn't even be repented, it'd be pented.
Well,
Because you're in
I
the
know,
position of standing.
Is the process of
Yeah,
turning.
yeah, pented. So you're being in the pentagram or the pentitude
Or the penthouse.
or the penthouse, you'd be at the lofty
top.
at the top. You're at the peak of your
Yeah.
assembly.
Right,
There's nothing more for you. You've reached the full turning. There's no more
the pinnacle of point,
pinnacle point. Absolutely.
the first two letters of kadosh, of holy.
So this is where we get the same word right there. It means to grow pale. And it's only one occurrence actually in Isaiah 29:22, if you want to look that up. And his face shall grow pale. Right, we've already touched on that verse,
Yeah.
but and so this same morphing, it means to burn with fire, to glow, literally to melt down, to burn, figuratively to show, incite passion. So in this is like, it's not that well, maybe we do, I don't know, but I know that when we comprehend what passion is, it's the language of lovemaking, that this is now you've returned the head, that you've connected everything in vibration to what intimacy is. You've connected passion to velocity, to fierceness, yet it's surrender and victory. It's completed passionate love that sparks its own fire.
So if I were to bring something else into that, when we go through this process, you shall find what your passion is to do.
Yeah,
Because you find yourself, and in finding yourself, it's going to be revealed of what your passion is,
yes.
so that you can live life abundantly.
Yes, we have the ability right now, I believe, that whatever's coming in is us. That's why I'm saying dream big. Because whatever your revelation of who you are, you're able to beckon that dream as a language of responsibility or a language of ownership. By what? By knowing how to not name it, claim it. I'm talking
Right.
a legal transaction by knowing the frequency. I'm resonating by the level of awareness, and now I'm connecting with it as a language of I see this and it's telling me what it is, and it's saying, right, you're an inheritor. I am the founder of peace. I'm the trustor, you are the trustee. Now you have to learn the language of obligation to the trust. And so this is how we connect with love. This is how we claim what love is as a foundation, because that's again, mutual aim, the foundation of peace.
So the safety protocol in all of that is transversing or circumnavigating the sea to make sure that you've made love by the time you get here.
Yes, yes. The only
The
way,
tumultuous waters is anything that is outside of unconditional love.
yes. This is the right hand, this is the left hand. This is the language of west, this is the language of south, this is the east, and this is the north. This is the hidden chamber of
Yeah,
the dark mystery. And when we go back and forth, we're going from the right hand of mother to the left hand of father.
Right.
I'm giving my witness and my testimony, but I'm being cross-examined. This is called the law of crossing.
Wow.
It's the
Oh, my goodness, that's Eber.
it's the land of Eve.
It's literally Eber
it-
is right here.
It is.
So Eber, for people who don't know that word, that means to cross over. It's literally the first few letters of Hebrew.
Hebrew.
What we've translated into English is a Hebrew, one that's crossed over. So those of you, I'm not going far. I just want to share just this. So this middle is to cross over. There's Eber.
Yeah, the knowing to build.
Yeah.
To construct.
Yeah.
The resh,
Yep, to build your head,
build your head.
winnowing,
Yeah,
selecting, feeding, purifying.
purifying, absolutely.
And on the outside, to rouse oneself awake to the building process within, which is what you're sharing right
Yeah.
here.
Absolutely. I'm just showing the format
Yeah.
of template,
Right.
Yod He Vav He. I'm showing the breakdown of the template of the generosity, what families given us, if we know how to return to turn.
Right,
So this is, again, we need to collapse. This thing is so distant from us because that's what we do. But when I take this person, I draw it in like, oh, this is the language of crossing. This is crossing the great expanse. And I think most of us look out, we're like, we're waiting to go to the stars. No, the system is within me. The universal dimensions are contained within my revelation of knowing how to build headships order again. This is how I cross a dimension and I become fully navigated. Now I'm a vessel. I'm now a starship,
mhm,
right? So this is the language of legal crossing. This is the legal ordinance that allows you to say,
from a blood vessel to a starship.
yeah, well, that's it. Damascus has to come down.
Right,
So what arises is the risen Damascus, which is
Right.
Kadmon, which is the east.
right,
He's a reciprocator, that the processor of dimensions that sees if you're able to cross. He's the ferryman. It's the same word. Avar is the language of the ferryman, the ford, to cross over. This is the death position that takes you onto the boat in the old lore to say, pay the ferryman his due, and he takes you on the boat across the sea into the new land. This is that. People, we just can't see it correctly to know this is the journey of the ferryman.
so going through death to life.
Going from death to life, but collapsing them both in the realization death is but the expression of beyond, and now the beyond comes into the expression of what we call life.
Right.
So this is what's happening. So this is the transgression. This is the great crossing,
Mhm.
right? And it's bringing in the mystery of Adam Kadmon through the generosity of, this is actually, and by the way, that word right there for west is im, which means the sea.
Right,
So this is the crossing of the sea. So we're going back and forth through cross-examination of introspection to know that, well, you've justified the sea. Okay, so why the Constitution? Let's erase all this because the courtroom is getting messy. We don't even have any photographers. We have no affiliates here taking pictures. The courtroom is empty, but it's already being filled up with the essence of purity. I love it that we're filling up the courtroom. So constitutional law. I don't know if people know this, but there's 12 types of lawyers. And so I'm going to read the 12 types of lawyers to you, but they're all under one deeded title called the constitutional law, and you're going to see it in this. So there's bankruptcy, business, constitution, criminal defense, employment and labor, entertainment, estate planning, family, immigration, intellectual property, personal injury and tax. Those are the 12 lawyers and the 12 constituents that make up our legal system, and these are all the fractals of what law is. But I can
So
already,
if somebody is trained up in constitutional law, then they know all 12.
then they would know, because everything, all of that,
Right,
what I
because
just said
that-
is
that's
under the Constitution.
constitutional. So this is why when you hear people that know constitutional law, have studied it, they can navigate through all of those 12 cycles.
This is why we have a problem in our country, is because we allowed the nation to define us without us defining the nation.
Right.
We've allowed forefathers to dictate a constitution where we should have been about our own business, defining our own constitution through the only one sacred father of absolute, therefore reestablishing
Through the mother.
orders, right? Well,
Mhm.
the sacred mother, then her name, will break it down. Her name does mean sacred origin mother, the sacred mother. The revealed mother is the father is no longer concealed because he's come out of the chambers,
Right.
right?
So they can unify.
So they can
once
unify. They both share the exact same power and potential in the same space.
They've
Perfect.
just been pulled apart.
They've just been pulled apart, but there they are.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So we're saying it. So now they're completed. So yeah, so
Womb and phallus.
woman fellows, right? So
Yep.
the line in the circle,
Yep.
circuit court knows how to circumnavigate. The way of Yashir knows the way of upright to return to close the distance, to know that I'm in the exact same space. Yashir, right hand,
Mhm.
right? By the deed of the right hand, I fulfill the right. So I'm now I'm the whole system of the court. I am the compass. Is there just an east of the compass? No. No.
So in having come full around, you're born again.
You're born again, Tadmon.
Mhm.
You're called antiquity as if it never occurred. You're now restored to the ancient order of Rashid. The headship is now restored to the governance, and we're going to break this down because I need to break this word down this way. So yes, absolutely. Everything is restored. The ancient order of right governance, the right nation, the world as the essence of origin and source is restored through the constitution of consummation. Circle and phallus. The constitution and consummation are the same word.
Immaculate conception.
Immaculate conception. I've now touched the untouchable. I've begotten and birthed it through intimacies, encounters, through many transactions of being wooed and making love. I've produced virginity, the innocence of a natural birth, as one nation is now beget. There it is, birthed into the earth by the Rashid, by the head in his crown.
Felt that one.
So we have to know how to say these things, to be confident in my dreaming and my expectation, so I can voice it as a reason. I'm not doubtful of this. I'm sound in my speaking. I'm resolved in my constitution, in the piercing of my heart, and in my lovemaking. I resonate to what I say.
Mhm.
I feel that. I felt that in my knees. Wobbly knees when you make love. And I say that in the most intimate, innocent way possible, that this is moved beyond the flesh and it's moved into the spiritual realm, and
All this in here.
all this in here,
All
this
this in
going,
here.
oh, how lovely. So let me read this to you. It's a very, just really 5 lines, but I need to break down constitution because this is the constitution. And remember, I haven't lost sight of secondment and what this is, a foundation. We're learning to know, to invalidate ourselves through validation. Okay, so we're going to state this first. So constitutional lawyers, because this is the whole format, we put the Constitution on the headship of this.
Right.
Constitutional lawyers deal with the interpretation, and implementation of the Constitution, and balance the interest of government institutions with the interests of individuals. That's it. So I can read.
So they're supposed to balance.
They're supposed to balance the language of interest of government and institutions and the interest of individuals. So I want to break down and this is going to be a bit of a job. We're going to break down, probably break it into segments. I need to break down interpretation, implementation, balance, interests, government, and individuals. Because we already have institutions in there, don't we? Interpretation, implementation, balance, interest, government, institutions, individuals. We need to know what that is. If we don't, and this all forms segment. So now we can justify segment, and we can say this question that was asked: what is Aman? What is truth? It's relative. Relative until you know the absolute.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to give my best perspective of absolute. So now, constitutional law as a lawyer, I've already broken that down. So let me break down constitution by etymology. Law, edict, customs, or laws. It's from the word constituere, and it means cause to stand. How do you spell stand? Kuf,
Goof all of them.
Aleph, Mem. Kum.
Mhm.
Now, how do I make the balance sustainable?
Aleph.
Well, by making sustainable, I'm making it sustainable as a support onto itself. I'm bringing in into cement, which means I am circled. I'm
Right.
completely circled by me going in. I'm protected.
I'm surrounded, I'm hedged in.
I'm hedged in.
propped up, I'm supported, right?
Right. And in this, I'm now the Constitution as the covenant. Well, that's sacrament. But now let's just talk about this. Let's take this out because this will come and this will come as telling us what it is. And this will come to tell us what it is. So now that is the word for stand, which is the definition of the Constitution. Cool. I could put that right there, no longer, well, again, the courtroom's getting busy. Oh my goodness. So I got to put that over there. So let's put cum over here.
So this is again where they would say you have standing.
You have standing. You have order about you.
You have a claim and you have standing.
Well, so let's define that when they say that. If they're saying that, now that we want to educate people, we want to make this practical. If someone said you have standing, already I'm going like I'm Constitution. What does Constitution mean? It means I'm fully assembled as a nation. What does that mean? I'm sovereign. When they say you have standing, it's already in the frequency and the vibration of sovereignly being God in earth.
So what they're doing when they say that, if you're entering into this, is that you have been validated. The court will hear you because you've been validated in a claim. You have standing.
You have standing in degrees.
Yeah.
Again, many laws, many forms, many fashions. So what is your truth? They're asking, and they'll stop at any point to say, okay. But when you can keep on going all the way to the top and going, I'm at the pinnacle of point, you're in my seat.
Kadosh.
Kadosh. I've turned Damascus. I've unwound Damascus because the same word for Kadosh is in Damascus. I've now pulled holy out of my blood, and I'm sitting as the firstling, as origin, as Barashit. I built it, and this is my throne. This is my seat. I am a nation, and I have to be recognized as a nation in the earth. This is my title. This is my job description. This is my birthright.
As Adam.
As Adam.
That's right.
I am
mankind.
Mankind has the opportunity. So yes,
that's the noble birth.
There's the noble birth causing to cum. So I need to, again, I'm defining sacrament for you. Why is she like a lion? It came as a lamb in the first game to show you, first you serve and then you become established. I was a lamb. Now I'm coming as a roaring lion. I'm not here to play anymore.
Right.
I'm not here to cuckoo you anymore.
Because I have standing.
Because I have standing now. So I come as a ferocious one, but in my ferociousness, there's a gentle caress to my healing hand.
Called grace.
Called grace, because I am grace's race. But don't define grace by your terminology, because I'm the measure of assembling. I am the family of trust. I am the founder of the trust, and I'm depositing to verify you through validation, to tell you, move along and come up into the place of invalidation so you can be inheritor as a founder of the trust too. That is a mystery to be solved. You are in the place of invalidation where you don't need any because you are it.
Right.
Now I can trickle down again. I come back into the cycle and I deposit into people by validating and verifying them where they are, but I don't necessarily need to minimize this and make it a lesser thing to say, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. Move along, move along, move along, and you'll translate this transgression into invalidation. And then at that point, guess what you get to do? Come down with your hand to assist another to draw them into this great expanse. You are now a founder as a law firm. As one standing, you are the law firm. By crossing over, you're now dimensionally called a trusted one by making love. This is huge in the revelation of invalidation to validation. Founder of the foundation, which means the architect of design. I am the founder. I poured into my own foundation. I unearthed myself. I trenched myself out. I poured into myself from the founder into the foundation. For that I stand upon, and my head now rises as the trust myself. For I trust myself, and therefore I stand on my foundation. What raised me is what I stand upon. For what I stand upon, I seek.
I'm actually thinking that this is kind of a good place to end.
Perfect.
This is about
Constitution.
an hour.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. We can end right there. And yeah, pretty much everything I said is the completeness. This is the complete consummation of what it is. Consummation means to be completed and filled up. And the same word for constitution is just to be seated in your stand, resolved as liquid. And so this is, I want to say just this, that this resolving a foundation, the antonym for foundation means dissolution and liquefaction. You have to know this language of absolute, of the language of what it is to translate this, because the foundation, the antonym, which would be the mirror of it, is liquefaction, which means you are now into the Shemayim. It's the same word for water. You've gathered all the water. You're called the assembly of dissolution. You're now liquefaction, and I call you the law of the sea. You're now a master standing over the sea.
So you now are in the flow
You are now flow.
of living water.
And we're going to get to it because why? Because as the foundation of peace, you're called Yerushalayim, which means to what? Flow as water. You're now into the absolute of dissolution, liquefaction as Yerushalayim, as now the teachers of light. You now flow as the foundation.
That you just described Melfa, the Aramaic word for the word, because it's mel, to be filled up, ta, from the sacred chamber, connected to the word. The one who sits here speaks Melfa
Yes,
as absolute
as
authority.
absolute authority. Yes,
Wow.
yeah. This is the word that I would even say
Wow.
that's Malkut. And I would spell Malkut this way: Mem Lamed Kuf Tav.
Right.
And so that is the filled up ones now is the empire. It's the kingdom realm, but now you are speaking as a filled full one in the language of compression, right? You are now the constitution. You are now compressed as the Kuf Tav. You are empire.
And your symbol would be the dragon.
And your symbol would be the dragon.
Wow.
To the residents of the lion.
Yep.
You're both.
Lamb, lion, dragon.
Yep. So we can end that there. It's a good spot. So we'll know where we're taking off. But this is now establishing just to connect us to the beginning again. So this is deposition to position. We just established the position of an empire. We're talking about the Rashid of headship restored. We're going to get to all through the government. We're going to break down government. We're going to break down what it is to know how to interchange as an institution. Because this is the institution, not the world. I'm talking about the empire's institution that's within you, that's within me. And we're going to show people how to build this so they can cross over and become completely navigated as admirable as one who has navigated their own sea by being the compass. I am the helmsman. I am the pilot to my own ship, right? I'm an interdimensional being visiting, finding myself as the founder to my foundation.
The only thing I would say is in the practical application of this, by navigating the turbulent seas, in order to be here, you have to have turned all your shadows.
Absolutely. Yes.
So the reason why I'm saying that is many times we will sit in on teachings with people or sharing times with people, and because we've heard it, we think we are it. And what you're explaining to us is how to navigate to become seated in this place. And what happens in here is all of the work.
Yeah, the only way to stand in the
So you're painting the vision of the becoming of the pinnacle of point, but most of us in our journey find ourselves as still in the turbulent waters.
Yes, the olive tav is the word that verifies the seat. I stand upon what I'm seated upon, right? It's that language. So if you still have shadow, it's impossible to vibrate to that frequency because this is a resolve of fully navigated. There is no more. So if we do this, if this is the circuit court, we've already defined as to journey around as a summation of circle. There's the circuit court. well, if that is still dark, then you haven't,
Right.
that's not,
So that area would still make you very subjective to the object lesson.
you would still be in the negotiation of Cadmon
Right,
for reciprocity to transact. You're still, and that's fine. That's beautiful. This is
it's
like,
just the process.
it's just the process.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so we're bringing the language of deposition from already in the place of standing to recognize it as headship, to see it as a court of law from neutrality.
Mhm.
I'm not wrestling anymore because this is completely collapsed now, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely, it's a very, very lofty concept. It speaks on dimensions but it's sound resonance of completion. And for just so I don't lose sight of the individual that asked us the question, what is Aman? It's right here, because this word right here, which is the word for the breakdown of when we were talking about second met, this word right here, Amet, roots out at Aman. It actually goes to that word. That's the root of it. And we're going to get to this. So just so you know, I'm answering your question, but I can't just say it's this. I have to show you what it is as truth. The only way to become the court of law is to be truth as beheaded. So you're no longer beheaded as removed. You're now beheaded as begotten.
right.
So you can see it correctly. So the truth is in here. We'll get to this, but I'm showing you what it is through many frequency of breaking it down to show you truth, because that's the only way you can speak in the right hand, is right being truthful. All right.
Tada Rabba, Hariva. Namaste.